Outreach was an eye-opening experience because so often it's easy to get caught up in what's happening in the church or what's just happening with the congregation, and we forget what the true purpose is. That's to reach people. When you go out there, it's completely different from anything like the church. You're out there doing the work instead of just hearing what we need to do. On my first outreach, I was pretty nervous. I was talking to my mom beforehand, and she was telling me that I was joking about how somebody might slam the door in my face, and she was telling me that it would never happen. So we got out there, and I was going door to door, and it came to a point where I walked up to one lady's door and I said, "Hi, my name is Steve Wilson. I'm with Christian Worship Center." Boom, she slammed the door in my face. So I was feeling a little bit discouraged after that. I put a Gospel of John, I put a CWC card down at the door, and I walked to the next house. And I knocked on that door, and the lady opened it up, and I explained who I was, what we were doing, and I asked her if she needed prayer for anything. And she became very interested in what I was talking about and asked me more. And so I started explaining exactly who Jesus was, what being saved was, and she asked me pray the prayer of salvation.
I believe it was April 28th. Me, Sam, and Cody, we went soul winning not too far away from the church. And so I came across this one house, and I knocked on the door, and the guy came out, and his name was Robert. And so my name is Robert, and so we hit it off right there. And so I gave him the Book of John and the CWC Love Sing-Law card. And he gave it back to me saying it wasn't his thing. And so he classified himself as an agnostic. And so I started asking what did he believe and why did he believe those particular things. And so he began to tell me all these things and his some life experiences. And so I went on those lines and started ministering on those lines. And after our conversation, he became curious about God. And so he took back the book and he took back the card. And he said he'll read it, and if God does something in his heart, he'll come to CWC.
Hi, my name is Brittany, and I received a card at home, and once looking at the card, I found out that it was from a church. I just put the card on my kitchen counter, and for about a week, I just kept looking at the card, and once praying about it, I decided that I would go to the church. And when I went to the church, everyone made me feel so welcome. I sat by myself, but everybody still came around and gave me hugs. And after that, I was invited to a visitor's luncheon where I met a member who invited me to life group. And I started attending life group, and I loved it. And back in May, I went to membership week, and I became a member of the church. And it's just been a blessing on my life. And that day, I didn't speak with anyone. They just left the card. But just knowing that somebody came to my house to invite me to church made me really want to come. So. Well, I guess this testimony is going to be a little different than everybody else's anyway. So when I wrote the names on my prayer list, I had my oldest daughter in mind, but I jotted down 2 other names, and then when I got to the last one, I wanted to put her in the blank, but I didn't. Someone else that's acquainted with her came into my mind also, a friend of hers. And as much as I didn't want to, I wrote her name down instead of my daughter's on the list. And it's difficult for me to pray for this girl. And I guess I hold a little bit of bitterness towards her. And so I guess I don't usually pray right for her anyway. But I put her name down on the list. And when we started to pray, I'm praying for these people, and when it gets to her, it's kind of like I almost hit a brick wall. It's really hard for me to know exactly how to pray for her because of the complicated situation that they're in. But as I began to pray for her, it got easier, and it almost came naturally after that. After time went by, and I just kept on and kept on, and it got a little bit easier. I stopped and I noticed that it's like, I pray for all these people, and I read some of the things they're putting on Facebook and whatever, and it doesn't look like anything's changing, and I kind of got a little discouraged. But at that point, I realized that, I don't always see what's changing from the outside, but I noticed that I had changed from within. And I was treating this girl different. I wasn't standoffish with her like I had been. Not just allowed her to come into my home,
but I've invited her into my home. I've welcomed her in my home. You know, I've been nice to her. I've told her I love her. I've hugged her. I've given her a kiss and a hug. I guess I've showed her kindness out of my heart, not just because it's something that, you know, I do when a guest comes in my home. I just showed her kindness out of my heart. And, you know, I remember hearing so many times people say that, you know, sometimes we're the only Jesus someone else will see. And what she saw of me before this prayer list was not Jesus. And now I believe she sees something different in me. I notice she's different towards me too, and it's because of my actions towards her. And she sees Jesus through me, not something ugly and judgmental. And so I've changed in my heart towards her. And along with my prayer, I know she's going to change. Even though I didn't see any outward change in any of the people on my prayer list, there's been an outward change in me. That's worth it.